in New York, which was basically a tiny little hole in the wall where he had this rickety little desk. And the reason I mention this is we're about to cross the ditch and talk to our good friend Selwyn Manning, who is the editor of EveningReport.nz. Selwyn, I don't know if you were a fan of Flight of the Conchords, but the reason I mentioned it is that the New Zealand government has just splurged a whopping $11.4 million on an elite apartment for its diplomatic corps, which sounds like the sort of thing that poor old Murray from Flight of the Conchords could only dream of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is like an episode, isn't it? You know, fantastic series. Thanks for bringing that up. And over here in New Zealand, we couldn't figure out why anyone laughed at it because Flight of the Conchords just seemed to be replicating exactly how life was over here. But,
That's such a good show.
You know, the government, it's really looking like it's trying to actually, trying to present some sort of corporate mirror glass image to the United Nations over there. The backstory to this is New Zealand, it takes over the presidency of the United Nations Security Council next week. And what it has done is, like you said, Dave, it's spent $11.4 million on the swanky apartment on UN Plaza, right by the East River, right across the road from the United Nations complex. Apparently, the pad is going to be the residence for the permanent representative. That's the ambassador, New Zealand ambassador to the United Nations. And this week, basically, the government has taken a real hit as far as its spending. Only 2 years ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, funnily enough, his first name is Murray. and last name McCulley. Now, he did a slash and burn exercise on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs all around the world. He was selling off and cutting back budgets, but selling off New Zealand-owned land where embassies and consulates and things like that were in the ownership of the New Zealand government. That whole exercise caused ambassadors and diplomats all over the place to sign a document objecting to the slash and burn policies of the new government at the time. And all it did at the end of the day was save around $23 million. Now, this big splurge in the last week, this $11.4 million, is almost half of all that whole exercise that was so devastating to the whole diplomatic corps. So the government is under pressure here on this. All the its opponents in the House, as you can imagine, have jumped on this. But significantly, Labour's Foreign Affairs spokesman, a man called David Shearer, not even his middle name is not Murray, I must say, but he used to work at the United Nations in a senior level before entering politics, and he is really pushing this, and he's saying that the government is just clearly out of touch, and it's simply extravagant spending.
Now, so on your next topic, just quickly, a bit of fun, the tale of two studs.
Tale of two studs. That's well put, Jane. The first is the most prestigious, I guess, and it's a Gisborne bull named Rangatira 13-38 is his official name. Now, this week, this amazing piece of cattle, this stud here, Rangatira, he sold for a record price of $100,000 at auction. Now, that's the top price in New Zealand for any bull in the history books. He comes from a long line, Jane, apparently, of Angus bulls. They're basically royalty here in the North Island's east coast. His pedigree is pure English blue blood, apparently, according to the people who are selling him, and he's the son of, and I love these names, it's Mount Marble Tor 660 is the name of his father, and his grandfather is simply, very humble name here, he's called Fat Boy, and apparently at the ripe old age of 9 years of age, Fat Boy is still good on the job, Jane.
And just to wrap up, the other stud is the Bachelor Art. He's had another little mishap.
Yeah, he has. We've mentioned Art a few times on your program. It's probably a bit unfair, but you just can't. This is the kind of guy that keeps giving, but in the wrong way. He has been. He's been out there with his mother touring around some sightseeing areas on the east coast of New Zealand around Mount Maunganui. Now, he really blew it this week. He put a photo of him and his mum. Looked all fine at on the photo side, but the caption underneath said, "Best start of the week. I dragged up the mount by the old girl." Maybe we get a glimpse into why his contestants weren't being forced off the show. The Bachelor, they were actually voluntarily exiting.
That's right. Sort of like turned into I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz. Thank you for that. And look, some good news just quickly. We heard before from police media about the missing 9-year-old girl in Salisbury, Talia Page. She's been found safe and well. Good. Police would like to thank everyone for their assistance in the matter.
That is wonderful.